Right, I'm looking forward to this. Conor Moore's list of You Had to Be There is pretty good, Conor.
Yeah, it deviates a lot. There's a few different sports in it anyway.
Was it difficult for you to put together?
Not really. There was different things. I was going to throw a Formula 1 thing, but I was like, is that like a really, the performance wise, it wasn't something that you're like, whoa. It was the whole event that was wow. So I suppose this was like you had to be there.
Yeah.
Performances kind of thing. So
we're not talking about your performances, we're talking about other
No. That would have been hard.
Yeah.
I can tell you about a few times I've burnt already. Bombed.
Have you bombed?
Bombed, yeah, about twice.
What's bombed? What's the double bomb?
Where you're not getting like a laugh. I remember going to Kerry years ago and I did a thing, the Gaeltacht did a gig, and up until that point I did about 10 gigs where they were just kind of GA gigs, so you'd walk in and just go, oh Shane, whatever, and slag them off and everybody laughs, and it was so easy. And I was thinking, this is just a doddle, like, and so you go down and this is a bit more of a corporate gig, and I get up there and it's in the INEC and there's a big gap between me and all the people, so you can't even see the mannerisms or anything, and can't remember who was interviewing me, but I did it anyway, and it was just getting no laughs, and it had never happened to me before. And it was like I was maybe a couple of months into it, and Brawley was after telling everybody, because we were at his table, so wait until you see Conor going up. He says he's absolutely wonderful. This man he's a marvel, so he is. He's a genius. Watch this. And I get up there and I absolutely
no pressure,
stink the place out of it. And at the end, and then whoever was interviewing me says, he goes, at the end of it, I'll ask you how this all came about, because this has been very quick and you've just gone, whatever. And I says, yeah. So at the end, I finished up and literally crickets,
Oh, Jesus.
And then the guy goes, so Conor, tell us how you started all this. And I was holding the microphone. I won't curse, but pretty much he goes, tell us how you started all this. And I forgot to take the mic down off my mouth. And I looked at him and I put my hand on his shoulder and goes, no, that. I said, right. And I got the biggest laugh.
Oh no.
I walked off the stage. Off stage, left. I remember going up to the hotel room and I was like, I can't go down there and face him. Brawley rings me up. He's like, come down. He goes, yeah. Blah, blah. And in fairness, he was dead right. I went down and I had a great laugh for the rest of the night. But I remember that was the first. I was like, ooh.
You kind of need to go through that though, right?
110%. You learn so much more from those gigs than you do doing any other. Because I remember talking to Barry Murphy years ago. I met him for a coffee, and it's like you have to know the room. And I'm very much like that. So if I have to know everyone who's in the room, if they're golf people or if they're whatever people, and you tailor the gig to them, because if you don't, you'll burn a lot more often. So.
You run the risk. Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's get into this list because it's really good. Dessie Dolan in 2003. It's Westmeath versus Meath. This is the draw.
2-13 apiece.
Yeah, I had to stick this one in.
It's only a quarter-final, Leinster quarter-final as well.
So hang on, is this the miss?
Did you not know?
I wasn't sure. I thought you were going to pick it the year they win.
No, as in that was more of a team performance, but I was kind of going for individual displays here. And I started following Westmeath, I'd say 2001. And literally it was the same story every year. You were playing Meath. I remember the quarter-final of the Leinster 2001. And the narrative was always the same. We're leading. We're about 5 points up. There's about 20 minutes to go. High ball is kicked in. Miles or Nestor, one of these boys drives the ball down the field. And Graham Gerry comes in, punches it into the net, or else it breaks to Ollie Murphy and he slips it in. This happened 2001, and we had a great run in the qualifiers. And 2003 then. The reason I remember this game so well is we were sitting in the Hogan stand, and there was this old man behind us, and he was talking to my dad, and he was having this con. He was, I've been following Westmeath now for about since 1958, and I've never seen us beat Meath. And we were losing at half time, I remember. But Dessie was having probably one of the greatest games, and I've seen him playing club matches and stuff, but at this level, maybe one of the best games I've ever seen him play. He couldn't do anything wrong. Every ball just fell to him. Kind of, one of those days everything goes right for you and stuff. And I remember, even there was a high ball in and the goalkeeper went to catch it or something. I can't remember if he caught it up here or down there or whatever, but it bounced back into Dessie's chest pretty much, and I think he punched it into the net, if I remember. And then he gets a free out on the sideline, and it's 14 yards out, and it was one of the best frees I've ever seen. And I think he mightn't have even went to the 14-yard line with it, which you're supposed to. I think he kicked it from inside it, and everybody's like, this is unbelievable, we're a point up or whatever. Or sorry, it's a draw game. And I can't remember who committed the free. Was it a pick up off the ground? Again, I can't remember too much, but it happened. And then the Meath boys remonstrated with the referee, so it wasn't now a 30-yard free, it was a 21-yard free. And the old man grabbed my father and he said it again. He says 19, and he named the year, whether it was 48 or 58 or something. I've been following Westmeath and we haven't done it and blah blah blah. And Dessie was after having the most amazing game I've ever seen of anyone. And then he gets the ball outside, 21 yards out, and he misses the free. He's going to love that I brought this up. I love Dessie, but I just had to. It was like, growing up like in Westmeath, everyone, when you're playing football, especially if you're a forward, Dessie's your hero, like. And it just was one of the most amazing. It's a folklore game, like, because he obviously missed it. And I remember a lot of people were saying, "Oh no, that went over the bar," but you could see from Dessie's body language, he knew it didn't go over the bar or whatever. So like, it went wide, but like, it was possibly the greatest miss in the history of Westmeath GAA, because, well, things then, they went for a change that year, obviously. And Luke Dempsey was after doing some amazing stuff at Westmeath, and it was probably unfair, but we ended up getting Paddy. We ended up winning Leinster. Would that have happened without Paddy?
The rest is history.
So it was a bittersweet moment. It was an amazing performance, but I had to throw that in there. Dessie loved that one.
Maybe you would have won it that year if you'd just kicked that one.
No. I definitely think we would have lost in the semi-finals. I genuinely believe we wouldn't have won it. I think, not that, like, obviously, like, you can't say you don't know, but I think that Paddy brought something like a winner's mentality to it, and
I just
made people believe.
I'm just Googling here. So Gavin Cummesky in 2003. Luke Dempsey stepped down as manager of Westmeath after the County Football Board delegates voted to re-interview for the position. So I suspect that they knew that Paddy was available. Dempsey had 9 years of inter-county involvement, 3 as senior manager, leading Westmeath to minor and under 21 All-Ireland titles. So like, he's like, this is my natural progression, and we've got there, and then Paddy comes in.
And he was only given 3 years as well. Like, he definitely deserved. And after, like, obviously, if the ball was kicked over the bar, he was keeping his job. All he had to do, really, he didn't have to win the Leinster. He just had to beat Meath.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Like, because 2001, we had the quarter final of the Leinster and then the quarter final of the All Ireland, and the exact same thing happened where we were well ahead. And Westmeath, to be fair, as much as people say, "Oh, we were minnows when we won it in 2004," like, we had an unbelievable team.
Well, obviously, I didn't realise backbone by minor and All Ireland under 21 glory.
Our half back line was Michael Ennis, Ger Heave, and Damien Healy, who were three players that could get in any half back line in Ireland at that point. You had Rory O'Connell at midfield.
John Kane was in that team as well.
John Kane's like one of probably, I think, was it Brogan or one of them that said he was like
toughest opponent or something?
Yeah. He just, and John wasn't like the most amazing fellow with a football in his hand or whatever, and he'd admit that himself, but like, my God, like, he didn't need to be. He was just so incredibly fast and tenacious, and like, when he'd tackle you, it was just, I don't know, it was like piranhas eating you or something. Like, he was just all over you.
Fair play to Dessie for making the TV ad for Vodafone a couple of years later. Or was
I know, he made a few quid off it. I remember my father watching that and he goes, "That was making money off us." Or off our misery. I was full sure I was going to get it. That was the ad. I was full sure I was probably out to have me one of my best games. But he really did, like, and in fairness, like, he's definitely our greatest player, like, in my opinion. Like,
it's a real sliding doors moment, though, because as you say, like, Luke Dempsey definitely gets to keep the gig. Right, so that's the first one. It's a bit of a Debbie Downer. Most people
predict, we won the Leinster. I think it was like bittersweet. I think it all if it was you wouldn't write that script now in Hollywood.
No, and in fairness, the fact that they do come back to win the Leinster means that everybody gets some kind of
everybody but Luke wins.
I know.
But it's also watching your county, I think, is the most nervous you could possibly be. You probably the same for Kildare in '98, but like, anytime I couldn't cover a monitor match in a work capacity because I'd be too nervous. So I think when you're watching your home county, you're just like, nah, I can't.
You're emotionally invested in a game like that. You're not actually like watching. Yeah, you're giving out everyone that makes a mistake. You're giving out. It's hard to like
process.
Be objective.
Right. So Tiger Woods at the Masters in 2019. This isn't bad, right? This is Woods back from the death, really, to win in 2019 is kind of one of the all-time great sporting feats. You were there.
Yeah, it was my first time at the Masters, and I remember when I got there on I think it was the Monday evening, and
were you working or were you hanging out?
I was actually I had a gig on the Wednesday night for the Golf Channel, but it was a gig like that you do. Like, my golf gig is kind of, if you told me to do the golf gig right now, I could do it. Like, it wasn't that I had to like prepare. Do you know, I have all the lines in my head. So.
You're not supposed to say stuff like this, Conor. It's like, it's
so much work goes into it.
I slave over every line and every joke for weeks and weeks.
But. So yeah, no, I went. I was doing a gig. It was just by a pool house or something. So I had that gig on the Wednesday night. So I was really there watching it. I had a Berkman's pass.
What's that?
A Berkman's pass is where just off the 5th there is this. It's it's like another clubhouse. And it's a pass that you get, and it's all just caviar and prawns and.
Apart from that, you were raised in Westmeath, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. I don't know how I got it. Like, well, I got it through the Golf Channel. They gave it to me or whatever. But I was there, and it was the most. I built it up in my head so much, and I was hoping I didn't build it up too much that I was going to be a bit disappointed. And I actually even, like, I remember walking in the gate, and I had this kind of cynical thought in my head going, bet you I won't be blown away by this place like everybody else is. And as I came around the corner and I looked over at the range, I saw all the players at the range and all the caddies in boiler suits. And I was like, what year is it?
Yeah.
It was like that. I was like,
stepping back in time.
If I could have taken, because you don't have phones or anything there, if you could have taken a photograph, it is the most beautiful, magical place. And the fact that there's no phones just adds so much to the mystique and just everything about the place. But going in there, like, just didn't think. Tiger was after, I was only after doing the ad with him, with Bridgestone.
Yeah.
And we were having a bit of a slag about, like, him winning majors, and he'd won the Tour Championship, and he went well at Carnoustie. He could have won at Carnoustie. He was close. PGA Championship as well. Brooks, I think he was second or third, or he's top 5 anyway. And he kind of thought, yeah, maybe he could do it, like, and he started off well. Now, I have to caveat, I was not there on the Sunday. I was there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And on the Saturday, like, he had a pretty good round. I remember on 6, I was there on 6, he birdied 6, 7, 8. I seen the 6th. I think he birdied, was it 13 and 15? And it was just, I felt like you were watching Tiger, the old Tiger. Because I'd seen him in a couple of competitions and the crowds follow him, but like most of the time I'd seen him, like I remember seeing him at the Players the year before in another competition. He didn't feature, he missed the cut, I think, and stuff. So I was kind of thinking to myself, like, you haven't seen Tiger, like, you've seen, like, the kind of ceremonial guy that goes around and plays golf and stuff like that.
He's going to be teeing off at the Masters first, and that's it.
Like. And that's the only time I ever seen him. And then I seen him, was he wearing like purple or something that day on the Saturday? And he had those turtlenecks he was wearing, which, brought back memories of 97. But he just played some unbelievable golf that day. Like, he amazing control of the ball. And did he have a 5 or a 6 under, something like that? When you're following Tiger, obviously it's not easy to follow Tiger, so you have to go a couple of holes ahead of him. So, like, I seen the 6th, but then you go to 9 then after, or maybe 10 even, just so you're there, so you'll stand behind the tee box. It'll still be packed because they'll be waiting for him. Yeah. So you kind of just have to, like, keep moving forward. So I got to see I got to see him birdie, I think it was the 13th, 6, where he came down the hill. That wasn't an easy tee shot, but it was just incredible. And a lot of people say to me, do you regret that you left on the Saturday night? And I'd no regrets, because you wouldn't, and especially on Sunday, even trying to get close to the 18th green, I don't think you would have been from a distance, but you wouldn't have seen it. And especially me being 5'5.5", well, 5'6" sometimes.
Round it up, sure. Yeah, round it up.
But Con Houlihan famously said that he went to Italy for the World Cup in 1990 and missed the World Cup because it was happening here. In a way, you feel a little bit like that sometimes at golf tournaments, where, so if you are you just looking at the leaderboards or the big scoreboard and seeing birdie between 6 and 8?
Yeah, that's what's magical as well about Augusta, is that they change the scoreboards, I think, every 3 holes. So I remember sitting on,
I didn't know that.
On the 13th, yeah, it's every couple of holes they'll change.
So it's
the
not
boards.
Every hole. You don't.
No.
Waiting for some big change. You don't know.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, from what I can remember, anyway, because it doesn't change for a couple of holes, and then they'll flip it over. So when the guys are coming around, they're looking up at the scoreboard, but you could be a hole or 2 behind, so you don't actually know if someone's.
That's good drama.
And then I remember sitting on the 13th, and they have a grandstand on the 13th, so the tee box is back here, so you get to see 12 or whatever. But then the scoreboard is over here, and I remember the scoreboard changing, like, on Tiger, was it the 10th or something, whatever he birdied, and the place just goes nuts. And that's what they talk about, the Tiger roar. Like, it's his roar. Like, it wasn't McIlroy that birdied a hole or something. Now, unless they're coming down the stretch and it's the last 2 or 3 holes and it's hugely significant. But over the course of the whole 4 days, like, when Tiger
did anything, drops
a birdie or even saves a good par, the decibel level of the roar is just, it is something to experience. And I'm glad I seen him. I don't know what, is he the ceremonial golfer now?
Potentially, yeah.
I can't see how you could, show up at a tournament and a bit like they're talking about the live guys, however bad they have it. And Tiger, like, obviously wants to win majors, but like, you have to put in the reps, you have to get the rounds in, and he obviously can't. Because if he could, he would.
But it's beautiful because we've joked before, and I've spoken about the image of Michael Jordan breaking the record in the NBA recently, and everybody has the phone out, like literally. LeBron.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it was maybe Phil Knight was the only person in the photograph that was watching with his eyes.
Seen that,
but you always see that with Tiger as well, teeing off, that it's everybody has the phone. Nobody is watching with their actual eyes. And at the Masters, that must have been quite a beautiful thing to nearly just take it in and appreciate it.
It's lovely, and you're going around. Even one of my mates was there, and he came in, and the Berkman's Pass, actually, what they have out the back of it is they have 3 greens, and they've modelled them on 3 of the greens, so they're miniature greens, but they're the exact same. They're scaled down.
Yeah.
So I think it could be like,
are there putters and stuff?
7, 11, 14. You've caddies, you've putters, whatever putter you want, and then you go over. And I mean, when you think you've played golf on a green, and then they tell you, okay, so the hole's over there, and the caddy's standing here, and he's like, you want to hit this mark here? And you're like, what? And then you hit it, and sure, it goes a mile over this way. He's like, yeah, but you hit it too hard. And I'm like, all right. And then you tap this ball, and it's like if I roll the golf ball down the table here, it just keeps going and going and going, and you're thinking like the
snooker table stuff.
Oh, and they have the stint, the exact same as
every day
out there.
Wow.
Yeah, of whatever day that is and stuff. So they've modelled it exactly, so you get to kind of experience that. But it is such a surreal experience, and I do say it to anybody, like, and even though, like, forget the Berkman's thing, or just been out there on the course, and everybody says the same thing, like, so I'm not saying anything new, but you don't appreciate how undulating it is. Like, you walk out and the first just goes like this. It's like it goes down and it comes up.
Yeah.
And the greens, a guy could be standing at the bottom of the green, and definitely me anyway, but like the top of the green could be over his head, the far side.
Yeah.
Like, that's how.
Is it like a little? It's like its own little paradise, because I remember passing through when I was on the J1 in South Carolina. I remember passing through Augusta in a Greyhound bus, and like the town isn't that appealing.
Yeah.
But it's just the actual course that has its own little mystique.
Yeah, I didn't really frequent the town all that much. Like, there was so much going on. Like, I was at a house just outside it, but yeah, it's like that. It's just kind of there off on its own or whatever. But it was funny, actually. Freddie Couples had texted me on the practice round, and he was like, "Was that you that shouted there at Tiger?" Because someone went, "Oh man, that was tough." And then Tiger looks at Freddie, and then Freddie's like, "Is that Conor?" or whatever. So Freddie texts me, goes, "Are you like following us, saying it was tough?" So it wasn't me, like, it wasn't me at all. But when he came off on the 9th, I remember Freddie grabbed me or whatever, and he brought me over to the clubhouse area, and I was in like the car park and stuff. And I remember this guy in a green jacket just touched me on the shoulder, and I was kind of going, "Do I have a passport here or whatever?" Like, and I literally thought I was getting thrown out. And I mean, like, it was like getting caught by the police or something. My heart rate was like, I was like, and the guy was like, "Love your stuff." It was an Irish fella that was a member or whatever.
Brilliant.
But it is just a great place. I think if you're in any way into golf or even into sports, like, it's a bucket list item.
Yeah,
like, you know, to go and see it. Yeah, it really is.
That bit about getting tapped on the shoulder, right? When did the imposter syndrome go away?
Yeah, it doesn't really, because the guys with the green jackets, because the guys will walk around with their green jackets, obviously, and they, like, you know, obviously you see some celebrities there. I know Phelps was behind Tiger on Sunday when he hit on the 16th.
You wouldn't miss him.
Yeah, do you know, but like,
he's got an advantage when it comes to
yeah, but the lads in the green jackets you nearly look at them like celebrities. Everyone goes, there's a member. You know, he's a member.
Wow,
and no one, you might have a clue who he is, but you're like, he's a member.
And I didn't mean generally about just Augusta. Like, when because so you back to the ENIC, it's happening really fast for you. Is there some point where you're like, okay, this is all normal now, as opposed to because it's not normal, like?
Yeah, no, it's not. No, I don't really think it doesn't ever be. I always feel a little bit. I always laugh. The first time I ever fly, like, and I don't always like fly business class, but sometimes if I'm on a trip and someone else is paying for it,
yeah, happy days. You got to do it. Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget the first time I went business class, and I was sitting there, and there was a guy sitting beside. And I remember kind of looking at this kind of older man, and he had his like shirt on, and I was kind of looking at him, going like, you know, as if like, you know, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And I was sitting. I remember sitting there, and I got a glass of champagne. I was like, oh, I'll have a glass of champagne. So I drank the glass of champagne. Then I said to the lady, I was like, yeah, I'll have another glass of champagne. She's like, okay. So I drank that fairly quick, and we were a bit delayed taking off. So I said to her, I was like, have another one. So she literally dropped like a mouthful into it, and it was her way of saying stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, so then the other lady across the way, I was like, So I got a full one again and I drank it. And I got kind of drunk on the plane. Like I didn't get kind of drunk, I got drunk.
Business class, you have to like.
Exactly, it was my first time, so I was really like, I'm going to like milk this, I mightn't be on it again or whatever. So I was drinking away, and then I woke up hungover, and I remember having like a glass of wine with my dinner. I fell asleep after the dinner again, and then they come down to give you a bit of a scone at the end. It was Flying Aer Lingus, and I made a bit of a mess, and then about an hour later I wake up and I'm lying down. Lady wakes me up and she hands me like a wet towel, and I was like. And there was a couple of crumbs on the table. And I went... She once goes, it's for your face.
Oh, no. Oh. At least you're down to earth. Well.
And I remember when she said it was for your face, for about a split second, I was about to put it on my face. I was like...
With the crumbs on it? Yeah.
We have another one,
I remember looking over your man, then I was kind of going, yeah. I was like, I'm definitely not supposed to be here.
We have many towels if you want them. The next one is Shane Lowry at the Open. This is one of my all-time regrets, is that I actually missed this, but I did watch it at home with my family. My mum and dad, we were all on holidays in Wexford watching it, and it was just like the TV was on, the sun was blaring outside, and everybody was happy.
Yeah.
There's just a surge of happiness, particularly because I think the Sunday was so inevitable, because the Saturday was like literally the greatest individual Irish sports performance potentially of all time. It's right up there with Roy Keane in any of those matches that he ever played, the Holland game, the Portugal game, the game in Turin. It's right there with Henry in any match he's done, even with one of your later ones here. It's like he just destroyed the world.
Oh, like, and again, when you said it, you weren't there. I find you're better off, and I was told this at the first Open that I went to. They were like, hey, when it comes to Sunday, the back nine, go back to the NBC tent or whatever and watch it on it. And even on the Sunday, I actually watched Shane's round from the media centre.
Right.
Because, again, Rory was after missing the cut, so he was gone. Tiger missed the cut, he was gone. Darren Clark was gone in a huff. Seen that on the night, on the 18th.
He doesn't huff.
Oh, when he... Did he triple bogey the last or something to miss the cut or
brutal,
something like that? And I remember going, and this was one of those. He's a member there and stuff like. So I was like, oh, and he walked off. I felt so bad for him, but he could have swung his club at somebody. Like there was steam coming out of the ears when he walked off, and everybody tried to clap him, to give him the send off, because he's a local and stuff. And he was just didn't want to anyway. It was nearly he stopped short of just going. But. Shane, for me it started with Shane, going into the tournament, all the talk was about Rory. All the talk was about Rory, and then obviously Tiger was back as well. But on the Saturday they missed the cut, but on the Friday, on the 10th, was when I had just because I just plopped myself around the course, kind of watching bits and bobs here, there and everywhere, and obviously Shane had a bit of a crowd following him, so obviously being in Ireland and everything, I walked up to the tent and he drained I was at 50 footer or 40 footer, a huge putt on the tent, and I was with a friend of mine, and I remember just kind of punching him in the stomach, I didn't mean to hit him, and I was like, oh, he's 6 under here, or whatever, and it was like, this
is real.
Yeah, we were like, he's actually possibly in contention here, he could win this, and he walked by me. The track, we were the way the tent is, you're kind of standing above the green either side, so you have big crowds, it's a bit of a amphitheatre effect nearly or something. But he walked by then, and I remember when he walked by, and it was he had this tunnel vision and he was looking straight forward, and usually everyone's like, oh Shane, and he's like whatever, and he just walked by with, I don't know, it was like Tiger-esque or something. I was looking at him going, this fella could do this or whatever.
Resolve, and now he actually resolve.
Yeah, he had a quiet enough back nine, I remember. And then Saturday happened, and it was, like you say, it was one of the greatest performances we've ever seen. Was he birdied 3-5? I think he birdied the 9th. Again, the 10th, then he had that 7-iron, that low. Him and Bo were talking about a 7 and an 8, and he thought he'd pull it left if he hit an 8, and he just bumped it up there. And again, when you're playing links golf, it is so much harder than parkland. It's not like you're just going to chip it up and stop it there. It's more you need the bounce, you need the rub of the green, literally. And I remember when he hit the 7-iron and it just spun up, and then it came down off the bank and it landed, I don't know, the 8 feet. And it was wow, this is incredibly special. And then that back nine, he backed it up and he birdied 15 then. And then on Calamity is the 16th, which is, and I've played it a few times, I think my I'd say I get about a 5 or a 6 on it every time. You usually lose a ball, like, because if you're in any way right, it's just off the cliff,
Gone.
and it's gone. And it's a 4-iron for them, like, so it's like 200 plus or whatever. Or maybe, I don't know, on the day there could have been a wind or whatever, but like he hit a 4-iron, and he's like, the ball bounces like at the front of the green and bounces all the way to 8 feet, and he goes up and he drains the putt. And then 17 he nearly chips in, and 18 he's within an inch. He could have been 6 or 7 ahead. And it, like, for me, I'd agree. I'd say it was one of the greatest Irish sporting performances of all time. And I also think, for like, even for him, the fact that he went and backed it up the next day, given what happened at Oakmont a few years before that, you know, he was in the same position where he had a 4-shot lead and he lost it. And I remember kind of at that time just not understanding. I was a bit like, yeah, but like, sure, he should be delighted he's even in contention, like, you know. But now it was like, no, this fella's like one of the... And again, I think he's elevated himself again, you know, to be one of the best players in the world. I'd even say, like, over the last year, like, there's so much scrutiny about his game now. Like, when Shane would play well, people would mention it and go, Shane had a great week. And if he didn't play well, people wouldn't mention it. Now if he doesn't play well, it's like, what's wrong with Shane? So he's up there with Rory now, where it's like everything's analysed so much, like, and he's obviously just getting... I think he's getting better and better. But back then, it was one of those moments, like, where he was now sitting at the top table with... And it obviously makes a huge difference to your career as a golfer. If you can win all the PGA Tour stuff you want, you win a major, you're dining at that top table. And I think not only some lads win a major and it is a flash in the pan, with him it's not. Like, he is, you know, one of the best players in the world at the minute, like.
Yeah, and has really leaned in and started to enjoy the leadership role that he's playing, and he's totally ready for it now in his life and his career.
I actually think... and it's a kind of it's a natural thing. I remember Roy Keane talking about, or some players talking about Keane when he was at Manchester United when he came at the start, and he didn't really say much at all. And it's just he becomes the leader then, and he just becomes one of those top guys. And then he's... But I think Shane is like that. I think he loves being in a featured group. He's actually one of these lights. It's like, put the lights on me.
Pressure of it.
Yeah, I think, like, if he's not in a group where there's no real marquee names in it, I prefer to see him in a group where he's playing with Rory, or he's playing with Scotty, or, you know, even Tiger, whatever. He likes that. I think he likes just walking out there feeling like that the cameras are on him, and he revels in that. Yeah.
I feel like that 2019 was different because, like, obviously Harrington was brilliant. Those couple of majors, 07, 08, GMAC at Pebble Beach, you had Darren Clark as well. But Lowry was different because I think it's just a man of the people kind of vibe. You see him at GA matches. He's so proud to be Irish as well, that we all kind of feel like we're a little bit of Shane Lowry. Oh,
big time. It's the lad next door kind of vibe off him, yeah. But it is, and obviously it being in Ireland and all the crowds there, and like how proud. Like, I remember when he walked to 18 on the Saturday, and it was like the president was just walking up the fairway, and he was just giving, you know, and everybody standing clapping. And
did he get a bus to the Boar's Head that night? Was it the next night?
That was on the Sunday, where he went straight down to... He went to house in Dublin, actually, first, yeah. Right. And the next day was the Boar's Head. You go to the Boar's
Monday,
Head the next
course,
day.
of course.
Monday. But and he just celebrated it so well. Like, actually, but he really is. Like, I did a thing. I was in Florida 2 weeks ago. We were shooting a bit of an ad or something. It was just the easiest day's work ever, like, because it felt like there's no cameras there.
Yeah.
Ask him a question, he's just like, oh yeah. And it's just like he really is like one of the lads. It was like I have to say now, it was one of the most enjoyable, easiest days work. I felt like I didn't even work, you know. I just felt like I just turned the camera on there, we started talking, and that was it.
You don't do a Shane impression?
I kind of do. It's a bit like that. It's not the best. I find when I'm doing people in the Midlands, it's not as good, you know. He thinks I can't do him at all, but it's okay. Like, it's not one of my best ones. And then when you're doing someone that you kind of know, you want to have it really good. He's a deep voice, like, he's got quite a deep voice. You know, but he does that. He kind of his teeth kind of don't really move. It's kind of a bit like that, you know, and sort of. So it's kind of... I don't think he likes it himself, but I don't think he cares.
Yeah, send that to him there.
We've got Katie Taylor next against Amanda Serrano. Where were you for this? You obviously at it.
Yeah, in the Garden. I wasn't supposed to be. Again, I was working in Florida, and I was after doing a video for the Westbury, where I had all the Irish people come over and kind of wreck the place or something.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I went down real big, and I was like, I can't not go. So I came back to Florida. I was supposed to fly back to Ireland from New York. And so I didn't get in the flight. I just stayed, and I was so glad I stayed. It was, again, I know a lot of these are kind of those Irish moments where you're like looking around, you're like, this This is special.
Yeah.
I get quite emotional at stuff. Like, I got emotional at the Grand Prix. After it, I was like, how have we got here? I was saying, my wife was with me, like, and I was like how did this happen? Like, doing a few videos, you know, and you're here or whatever. But I remember the Katie fight. We went into Madison Square Garden. We're in the Westbury drinking. The place, like, it's jammed, wall-to-wall Irish people. Everybody's singing songs. Most people aren't even going to the fight. The place, for about 12 blocks around Madison Square Garden, every bar is just packed with Irish people. We get down to Madison Square Garden.
Sorry, everybody should know the Westbury's the pub in New York.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So the hotel in Dublin.
Shameless plug, yeah. But the Westbury NYC. So we get down there and everyone's just singing. It's the ole 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 crack, and we get into the Madison Square Garden. And for a place that has a reputation of being like really big, when you're in it, then you're like, oh, it's not that big, but it's just, there's just thousands of people like going real high up.
Yeah.
And the green flags, the green, white and orange, then this promo comes out. I was standing there, my brother was with me, my dad was with me, and again I was getting kind of overcome with emotion, going like, you're kind of in that real sappy stage. You're like, aren't we brilliant? Aren't we just amazing?
Lovely
like,
wee country.
Aren't we like, no other country has this. No, this is just us. This is like
Puerto Ricans in
Ireland.
Like.
Yeah. No, there was in fairness about 7 Puerto Ricans there as well. But it was just flooded with Irish people. And yeah, I remember kind of going, am I about to like cry here? And then Katie came out, and whatever music she came out to, it was this kind of, I was expecting like a bit like the McGregor thing, the Foggy Jew or something, you know, you're expecting like so the music then kind of just flattened me. I was like, what's this song? What is this? Now it obviously works for Katie, you know what I mean? But we were expecting something rebellious or of patriotic, something like whatever. So that kind of, the emotion left me for a minute then. I was kind of going, what's this? What's this song? So she comes in, national anthem or whatever is played then, and the whole place is just pounding it out like, and it's so loud. The fight starts. First couple of rounds is like they're just feeling each other out. And again, you can't watch a boxing fight if you're invested in the boxing fight.
Oh no,
not at all. So the 5th round happens, and it looks like Serrano's taking her head off, and like how she takes the punishment. You're standing there, and her legs are dead straight. She's not even, you know the way you crouch down for grip. It's like she's standing dead straight, taking these punches, and like you think it's going to be over. Now in fairness, it was a 2-minute round. I think that definitely was a benefit. If it was a 3-minute round, I don't know what would have happened. Although I say that, but like you almost battering the head off her, to use the expression, for about 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So do I think she could have lasted another minute? Probably. It looked like
that was as good as it was going to get. Or as bad as it was going to get.
Yeah, like she couldn't put her away, which just as much as people eulogise about Katie Taylor, like when you see that, like, because in adversity is when you see the real character or the strength of someone. And that 5th round, like, she really took a hammer, and then obviously Serrano would have expended a good bit of energy in that 5th round. Came into the 6th. Serrano, she wasn't really on the front foot as much, and in Katie 7, 8, 9, she won those rounds. And then the 10th round was like Hagler Hearns, like the last 30 seconds they just
at it
absolutely went to take each other's heads off. And you're kind of thinking both of them like felt they were winning. Why would you risk it? Why would you risk getting knocked out in the last second? Because it really could have happened. And the two of them just had the gloves down and were swinging 1-2s. There was no combinations. There was no jabs. It was literally just 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, back and forth. And the fight ended. If I'm being honest, when I was there, I said, because in my head, she's the local as well. She's like Brooklyn born. And I thought she won the fight. And I was like, she's won the fight. And it was the next day we went to the Westbury, and Johnny Longhall says, I thought she won it. And he goes, watch the fight. It was coming on in half an hour. Watch it without the sound. We all watched it without the sound, and you could see she won the fight. You could see she was more accurate, even in the first couple of rounds. Serrano was a bigger puncher. Wasn't a bigger woman in the fight, but she was definitely the bigger puncher, and she was more aggressive. She was on the front foot mostly, but Katie was unbelievable in terms of styles make fights or whatever, is the cliche, but also like adapting your style and having to go on the back foot. She was incredible.
It is typical boxing bullshit that we're not going to see it again. Like that's the all the problems with the sport writ large. This incredible once in a lifetime thing is only once in a lifetime, folks. Even though there's a rematch clause, we're not going to get the rematch, I don't think.
Yeah, and I also which goes to Katie's character. The fact that when I seen that fight, I was like, that was a risky fight. And the next fight's risky too, and I'm kind of going, the Irish fight, just fight me.
Yeah.
Just fight me. I'll fight you.
Yeah.
You know, to win and box the head of me and get the win, take the W.
I think.
But she doesn't.
She
she's
deserved
like,
that.
No. Yeah. And no one would judge her, like, but she is the
we would
type
support
of person
her.
she is.
It'd be like a Kickstarter.
Exactly.
A GoFundMe.
The noise and cacophony of sound in MSG, like when you compare it to something like the Tiger Roar, you know, say just after the national anthem or just after Kelly or Katie is announced as the winner, what is that like in comparison to something like the Tiger Roar? Because I think, was it London 2012 that the Olympic bout broke decibel levels? Like it was the loudest moment at the Olympics. So like Katie fights generally will be loud.
Oh yeah. No, to be fair, a golf roar and a boxing roar, I don't think there's no way. I could not come in here with a straight face and say the Tiger Roar is actually louder than the, you know, when someone's getting their head taken clean off. But the decibel level on, like when you're in the garden is it's insane. Like it is. You feel like the ground's kind of moving and stuff like that. Now that's your own kind of energy as well. You're like, I remember actually one time I felt the ground moving, where I thought the stadium moved, was when Cluxton kicked the ball over the bar in 2011. I was sitting right behind him, so I had a literally perfect view. He was in the middle between me and the goals.
He just nearly getting it.
Yeah, and the ball went over the bar, and I remember it, like, kind of, I felt the place went like that. And then they won. And
it was an earthquake, was it?
I swear to God, I'd like to see the Richter scale that day in Croke Park, because I was walking out there going, I'm telling you, the concrete moved. I really thought it moved.
I think sometimes in the stadium it feels like that. When Lara scores his hat-trick, that Tipperary, Kilkenny going for the 5 in a row, that was also, because that's like two absolutely feverish hurling nations coming together on the day, and history being made or not. The song was Awake My Soul, Hillsong Worship. She said afterwards that she wanted to walk out worshipping, but then the noise was so big that she just got lost in the atmosphere, and in that moment even she forgot God. I made that last bit up, sorry.
But I wouldn't mind when she was walking out, like the camera's on her and she was just like that, like she had this stare on her, and she actually walked really slow as well. Usually someone comes in with a bit of, especially if you're nervous, you come in with a bit of pace, like,
you want to get through that.
She walked in and then she stopped and was just looking around, and you could actually see she was so present. She was like, this isn't like, because I presume before that, now I haven't seen all the fights, but she definitely has never fought with a crowd like that, in a place like that, headlining.
No,
for me that was where women's boxing became boxing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the UFC, you don't say women's UFC, like that was like boxing. And I think obviously what she's done for the sport now, it's and whatever you want, and we say quite a bit about Eddie Hearn on this show, but like that was his point, and he has been centrally involved in taking her from being an Olympic gold medalist to a headliner in the sport. And you know, whatever about the fight that he's having with Croke Park at the moment, he does deserve some credit for that. Jamie Domican says, hey Shane, why don't you do your GMAC impression for Conor?
Absolutely not.
He hasn't looked nervous at any point on the show this week, by the way, but now all of a sudden
I haven't been put under pressure at all.
It's way better than mine.
You definitely
I've never
have.
seen it.
Jesus,
it's
no.
way better.
There's so many to choose from. We've
GMAC on GMAC.
It's oh Jesus. What do we talk about?
Yeah, I will talk about Florida. Alligators,
spiders, yikes.
spiders, yikes. That's how senior top class.
Biggest fear, probably my biggest weakness: cold beer.
Cold beer. Are you a tattoo kind of guy?
Tattoos. No tattoos. Not in the near future either. I don't know. Sorry, the fact that I'm doing an impression beside Conor Moore here is ridiculous. By the way,
we'll have Padraig with GMAC. Will we? Who do you want?
The two lads. Well, I can only do one. Who's going
to win the Masters?
Well, I don't know. There's so many to choose from, Conor. There's Tiger.
Why'd you go to Live?
I don't know. There's
explain yourself like you did before.
The green, you know, the little bit of cash, you know, dinner and drinks, dinner and a movie. Definitely dinner somewhere.
I think that video's off the internet.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, right.
We'll bring it back.
I think, well, if you have a strong legal team, you definitely get that.
should rip that. Somebody surely has.
I'm sweating now. First time this week on the show I've been sweating.
That's it. That video was reprehensible for sure. Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption, Gladiator.
So at one stage I was like, oh, you're not going to be able to do all those impressions anymore. But actually, everybody wants to see them because they're even more famous and more important.
The
live golfers, yeah.
Sure, I had this conversation with the boys. I remember last year with the Golf Channel. I'm like, you know, like most of my stable has gone over there. which suggests that most of the kind of bowsies are gone over there. You know, the guys that you kind of
Poulter and the lads, yeah.
Yeah, you've seen the Full Swing.
I actually haven't seen it.
The first and last episode only. Brooks, or the Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, and then the Rory one as well.
You watch the worst.
The first one's bad.
In the middle, it's pretty good. Like that first episode was like just. I don't know who decided to have the lads FaceTime each other and make it look real. And hey, yeah, I'm just doing your wedding speech, man. And he's like, hey, don't mess it up.
Hey,
this is what you put in this show. Like it was. But I will say one thing. I really enjoyed it as a show. I think it's like unfair to compare it to F1, given like how open F1 is and how like even if you go to an F1 thing and you've got paddock tickets, Lewis Hamilton just is standing right there beside you. You're talking to somebody, Max walks by you. Golf just isn't like that. Golf also isn't played at 300 miles an hour and you could die, if you mess up a shot.
The jeopardy is less.
Yeah, and I kind of I thought Poulter's episode in it was very good. Like, and he was asked, why did you go to live? He's like, I made a business decision, and I thought like, and even DJ said the same thing. And I think anybody that kind of said that, nobody really has judged them.
I'm crying. The game, the format's all wrong. Yeah. These guys, it's like, there's definitely a difference. Honesty helps.
Big time. Yeah.
You've got to go. I mean, we've gone way over time here, but David Clifford in the 2022 All Ireland final. This is kind of up there with Shane Lowry a little bit.
I thought Shane Walsh on the same day.
Shane Walsh was.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the winning team.
Yeah, for me, my dad he's a staunch Galway man, and he was like, Walsh was man of the match. And don't get me wrong, he was amazing. But for me, it's like, who got the result?
Yeah.
Who kicked the last 10 minutes? Who got the points or whatever? And Clifford kicked that one from the corner. But like everything he did that day, when you think about his performance, and a bit like we got an All Ireland final akin to the World Cup final where you had Mbappe and Messi start. You don't really get that.
Yeah.
You know how many El Clasicos did Messi or Ronaldo not really show up in? The odd time the two of them might play well. So you got like an All Ireland final where the two talisman actually showed up and had a shootout nearly between each other. And like Shane Walsh was absolutely like, he was imperious, like in a sense, but like Clifford, and typical of Jack O'Connor, there's always he always throws in a little simple tactic in every final or something. He kicks in a couple of diagonal balls, puts a bit of pressure on the Galway full back line, the goalkeeper. Clifford, 7 minutes in or something, he goes up and he catches a ball like this, and just again shows off like every trick in the book he has. You want to kick the ball in low to him, he'll win it in low. Left or right foot, marks, freeze. It was a game where he just showed off every kind of like facet to his game. And on top of that, then he kicked over pressure points, and especially that one in the corner, that it was 66 minutes or whatever. Like, I don't really think it was a foul. Yeah, man, he definitely played for it. I think it was Spillane or something, I kind of thought. But he kicks it over from the corner, and everything he just did that day was unbelievable. And for me, like, a lot of people argue, is he the greatest or whatever? And I'm like, not that I'm any sort of beacon of what's great or whatever, but for me he was in the pantheon of greats in my mind about 3 years ago, because I seen him play with a football in his hand. I seen him play the game, and I'm like, the guy bounces the ball different to everybody else. He solos the ball, like he kicked over, I think Gavin White plays him a ball, I think it's his second or third point in the game, and he strokes the ball over the bar, and it looks like he taps it over from the 21. He taps it over from about 43 yards out.
Yeah.
Taps it over.
Under tight marking. I think that this was really important because we'd had video footage of him playing in the schools games in Croke Park, where he's like a man amongst boys from the time he was under 14, and then there was the great minor team that he was part of. So this is the coronation, and he has to put in a performance worthy of everything up to this point. And everybody always disappoints you in sport. There's always a little bit of a letdown, and he didn't. There was no letdown. There was like, I'm actually going to be even better. I'm going to carry the team. They needed the marks in the first half. Like, they needed that because Galway come out and they started really well, and everything that they thought about in the build up to the game was like, don't let Galway get off to a good start. Whatever, keep Shane Walsh. It was like they couldn't do it, and he's like, no bother. I've been here before. I've seen the movie. I know how it ends. I've been an all-star every year. I've been playing senior lads. I'm going to be man of the match.
Yeah.
Like, it's
what was it my uncle used to say over in America? He's been living in America like far too long, but like he used to say to us before the game, or if it was half time and it was tight or whatever, winners want the ball when the game is on the line. I think it's from, I don't know what film it's from, but that's what Clifford was like. It was like, give me the ball, like, I'll win the game, like, just put the pressure on me, don't worry about it, I have this. And that's the footballer he is. That's the person he is. I just think he's got it all. He's like, again, like, people talk even about Jack and Tiger and who's the greatest. Like, I will say, in 200 years' time, people will only look at numbers. They probably won't delve into like whatever. And if Jack is on 18 and Tiger's on 15, people would say Jack is the greatest. But like, if you've watched golf around then, you'll see in those 10 years, nobody ever played golf like Tiger Woods played golf.
Yeah.
And I think if you just watch David Clifford, for me, and I wasn't around, I wasn't alive when I was Matt Conor was playing. But like when I first seen him on YouTube, I kind of watched and I was like, well, he looks like he's like Maurice Fitz from the noughties or the late 90s. Like and obviously people argue about teams and everything. It's a simple fact that like you get better the more you train. So teams are obviously better now and they're more skilled than they were back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were better teams, but they're more skillful. But Matt Conor looks like he's teleported from the noughties or something back to the 80s.
Yeah,
and he just
era.
drops the shoulder that way. 6 lads go this way. He just taps the ball over. And I remember watching it going, geez, he actually looks like, because sometimes you watch players from back then, they throw the ball in front of them and they kick it up the field. Some of the greats.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not like, and obviously like the lads wouldn't have trained like they do now, but like Matt Conor, for me, looked like that. And again, Maurice Fitz, and I think Clifford is like Matt Conor, Maurice Fitz, Messi, Mozart, the whole lot of them rolled into one.
I agree.
And I think for me, he's the best I've ever seen.
Well, you've set a new standard for You Had to Be There. Conor, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks. Cheers.
It's so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.